Holiday shopping kicks off. 1 week from today, is your heart ready? A new study of just what happens to your health as you scramble to get the best deals when shopping. All those stories coming up this morning, and joining me to talk about it, National Review reporter and Fox News contributor Katherine Timpf, Crowdpack CEO Steve Hilton, and Republican strategist and Fox News contributor Tony Sayegh. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Maria.
You guys ready for shopping in a week?
Oh, my God, I don't want to think about it.
No, I don't go out to the store. Everything online. Absolutely everything online.
Yeah, I'm one of those online guys that
you are?
were reporting on before.
I get so angry.
The worst kind of hypocrite, because I do it online, and then I get upset when local stores close down and community, you know.
Probably online is the best way to do it. All right, we're going to talk about that. We've got a lot more coming up. We're obviously talking about the Trump transition. Nissan Chairman and CEO Carlos Ghosn is with us to give us a sense of what's going on in the auto business. Plus, former Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain is with us. Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy is here. And former Secretary of Energy under President George W. Bush, Spencer Abraham, will join us. You don't want to miss a moment. We got a big hour coming up, so do stay with us. A businessman, as president-elect, Donald Trump is eyeing cutting corporate taxes, rolling back regulations. On the campaign trail, he talked a lot about his economic plan. So what type of business climate can CEOs expect under a Trump administration? Want to bring in David Malpass, former Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary under President Reagan and a Trump senior economic advisor. Good to see you, David.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. So, you know, Steve Moore came on the show the other day and said he would not be surprised to see a triple in economic growth. Really? 6%? We're at 2% economic growth right now.
Well, we've been at 1.5 over the last 4 quarters, and so a triple would be 4.5, and I think that's very achievable. You know, when you change policy, people react. And economists have the hardest time figuring this out, that if you tell me the environment's going to be better in the future, then I, as a businessman, I'm going to invest a lot more now. And that's what I think the country has to digest. There's been a major change of direction, a giant amount of energy. So think about the energy that Trump showed in the campaign. That's continuing into preparation for the presidency. And on the other hand, the media is still on the negativity kick. Everything is bad. The country's got to figure that out, react. And I think you're going to see a lot of small businesses hiring more workers, buying more machines. It won't happen instantly. You've got to show me where's the policy change on taxes, for example. But that will come. That's going to take, for one, a new president.
Look, I just want to say that Walmart is coming out with earnings, and it looks like the revenue is missing expectations. You got comp store sales fractionally moving here, 1.2%. Obviously, the economy is quite slow. You think a rollback of regulations and lower taxes speeds things up?
That's right, and it happens, but it takes months. If you think about Ronald Reagan, there was a lot to digest from the previous administration. There was high inflation. You had to unwind that, then get some tax cuts done, get regulatory reform going, and then the economy took off. So people shouldn't look for an instant reaction, but forward-looking businesses will start making the changes.
Focusing on deregulation, what are the sectors that you see that are going to benefit the most quickly? Is it going to be telecom? Is it going to be energy? Is it going to be healthcare?
Or banks? How about banks?
Absolutely.
Yes and yes to the first ones. Now, the banks have the challenge that they've been, you know, the Fed's been paying a high interest rate for the excess reserves, and so there's changes for the banks. I would put the emphasis there on changing system for the banks that will allow more small business lending. For the other sectors, though, each will do pretty well. I just was reading yesterday about this giant new energy find in Texas, in the Permian Basin. So you have an area that's been drilled for a long time. It's coming up with giant new fields of energy. So there's growth to be there. Trump is focused on energy reforms, so those will work.
Okay.
The thing I think we always need to remember is that the data shows that most new job growth comes from small businesses, from startups. That is so central to really getting things going. And actually, the small business lending, therefore, is a really big part of this. And if we can get that going, plus get rid of some of the bureaucracy that small firms have to cope with.
Obamacare, too. I think that'll have an impact.
That's right.
Each of these is critical. There's lots of work to get each one done. I was happy to see Biden making a positive comment yesterday, and some of the Democratic leadership were sounding positive, and so that's very good. I think there's an opportunity to work across the aisle to get everybody wants small businesses to grow more.
Let me ask you about bank regulation. Just a moment ago, I spoke with Minneapolis Federal Reserve President Neil Kashkari. I want you to react and tell me what you think of this. He said bank regulation under a Trump administration may look different. Look at this.
I think there's actually going to be consensus that we need to address the biggest banks and the risk that they pose to the economy. And if you really address that, then you can relax regulation on the small banks that are not systemically risky. I think there's common ground across party lines on this.
Look, he's all about end too big to fail. Trump doesn't want to end too big to fail, right?
Well, you don't want banks to fail, and you don't want them to be cared for by the government. I just wanted to get away from that phrase. The critical thing is to find a way that banks are regulated properly, effectively, so that they don't get over their skis. You know, decade after decade in the past, the big banks would lend massively and get in trouble. So you don't want a system like that. On the other hand, you need better capital allocation than we have right now. The banking system right now is being incentivized to help big businesses. They need to have an equal incentive or even more to be lending into the small sectors.
But I think Trump will have, you know, one of the things that everyone agrees about, even Obama said it the other day, is he's not particularly ideological. He's very pragmatic. He's a business guy. And I think that in the end, he will focus on what are the steps that will really change things in a practical way. And so I think that he will actually appoint people who understand that and get on with the action that will really make a difference
by the way,
in real life.
You make a really important point, because there are big meetings that are continuing at Trump Tower today. Texas Congressman Jeb Hensarling, who chairs the House Financial Services Committee, and Fred Smith is going to be there as well, FedEx chairman and CEO expected there. David, talk to us about that. What signals are the Trump administration sending with these meetings? I mean, you've got a business guy like Fred Smith. Interesting. I mean, why do you want business people, more business people in the administration, or would that be too many sort of establishment, you know, elitists? This is the same question when it comes to Treasury Secretary.
That's right. Absolutely. You want business people. What I like also is that he's opening up the slate. You know, in the past, it was insiders that got in, and people without experience in how to make change, without experience maybe outside the government that moved them beyond. So I'm happy, very happy, to see people that can bring new energy. A lot of this is going to be, you've got to work constantly to get change. That's one of the challenges. And so I like seeing a lot of people come in, because then that gives President-elect Trump a chance to think, how do you make change and who can do it?
On banks, David, Charlie Gasparino from Fox Business reported that there is a potential for a Trump administration to review the Martin Act. That's a New York state law that essentially empowers the Attorney General as the principal regulator of all banks, clearly Wall Street. This was abused by Eliot Spitzer. It's being abused by Attorney General Schneiderman. Is this something that you truly feel can be changed?
I don't know about the law itself, but
it should be changed.
Well, litigation has been a giant problem blocking business, and so you need to go at the core of that. What is it that's causing the prosecutorial excesses that are often happening? You know, there's this adversarial relationship often between government and business, where they land on it and extract fees from business, and that you can really change and make it better. And that causes, if you think about why are U.S. businesses taking their money abroad, these giant amounts of earnings that are stored abroad, is because they don't want to invest in the U.S. You can unlock a lot of that by saying we're going to have a climate where you're not constantly being sued.
Donald Trump does like to say he's going to sue people, though, to be fair.
You know, but he changes too. He was a businessman and had to contend with that environment. So sometimes the best way to deal with that is suits. But the better way for business would be hire workers to actually do things, and fewer lawyers would, I think, be a good part of the draining of the swamp. Is to get Washington out of the lawyer mode, where they think the world lives and breathes lawyers fighting.
Especially since, and as you pointed out, Charlie did some great reporting yesterday, that the Martin Act was taken advantage of. I mean, Eliot Spitzer used that law as he wanted, to take down Hank Greenberg, to take down, you know, whoever he could.
Yeah, to burnish the sheriff of Wall Street credentials for his own political gain. That's right. Not to really punish bad behavior.
I was only hesitating because I think people ought to think about each of these things. It takes a day to figure out exactly how do you want to do it, and then to figure the strategy best that's going to get it done. But there's got to be planning to it, and I think that's going on very heavily.
Real quick before you go, when you talk about drain the swamp, I mean, yesterday when the speculation was all over about Jamie Dimon possibly getting the Treasury job, it's down to Jamie Dimon and it's down to Steve Mnuchin. We'll see who gets it. But would it be a negative to put somebody like Jamie Dimon in Treasury because he's established?
I'd like to get away from positives and negatives and say, what would they do? Do they make
exactly
good decisions?
And he does.
And Jamie Dimon's made a lot of good decisions.
Yeah, he would be great.
Knows the world, and so he'd be good. Steve Mnuchin also made lots of decisions.
Great too, yeah.
So I think we ought to evaluate people based on decision making and get on with it. The country is changing really fast. There were a lot of Democrats yesterday that were acknowledging that, saying they wanted to be part of the change. And so I think that's good looking into 2018. There are big elections then, into the future, and the country by then will be growing. So I think a lot of people ought to get on the train that this is going to be faster moving change.
Yeah. By the way, I'm impressed that Fred Smith is going there because he knows the economy better than most.
And he's a change agent.
Run FedEx.
He's lived through a massive change of that industry. That's great.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. David, good to see you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, David Valpas there. Coming up next, the holidays can feel like a marathon. According to a new study, it could be just as stressful. How Christmas shopping can actually hurt your heart rate. We'll tell you about it.